So I'm Nirupama Sarma and I'm from Bangalore. We are actually Andhras, but born and raised here. So we speak Telugu, Kannada, of course English, Hindi, some Tamil. Yeah. Before Uber and Ola came in, I used to drive around and no, we didn't have maps, Google Maps at that time. So I used to drive around the city, find my way around. So I think I know the city pretty well. And but after Uber and Ola started, I've been using them a lot, and because of the parking issue in the city, it's a nightmare trying to find parking. So I've been using cabs, and then these days I find that even when I'm driving, I do use Google Maps because there's so many different ways to get to a place. So trying to find the best one, I do use the map. This is my city, and I feel tough and able to deal with the things that come my way here. And I speak the local language, so that helps. And bear in mind that I used to live in Delhi. Yeah, some 20 years ago, more than 20 years ago, 1997, I got to Delhi, and it was really unsafe at that point. And I used to be terrified of stepping out of the house, and terrified even when I was in it, in my house. So Bangalore really feels safe, like a womb. But I recognize that that may not be the case for many other women in the city.
For you as a child and growing up in Shantinagar?
Oh, growing up in Bangalore was fantastic. I grew up in Shantinagar. We had a large bungalow, and all the kids in the neighborhood would come to play in our house. And my brothers built a tree house. We had lots of trees in the compound, and we had actually built a tree house. And one of my brothers, he was very good at cooking at a very young age, so he would cook, and we would eat that food and go up to the tree house. And it was an enormous bungalow. Now there are two enormous bungalows in its place. It's destroyed, that house. It's been razed to the ground, and there were snakes in the compound. We used to play hide and seek all over Shantinagar, and the neighbors had no problem that we were jumping on their compound walls and across different houses. And we knew everybody in the neighborhood. The families knew each other. Everyone looked out for each other. Yeah, it was really, really fantastic. One particular memory I have of growing up in Shantinagar was that my brother, my second brother, he was particularly clever and innovative, and he dismantled an old bicycle that we had, and put a wooden plank and used three of its tires, one in the front, two at the back, and this wooden plank. And then it had a little wheel, which was the steering wheel, yeah, and then a stick, and the stick was to be used as a brake. And so of course it had no engine or motor to go by itself, so he would tie that with a rope to his bicycle. So he would ride the bike, and I would sit on that contraption, and we would go around Shantinagar like this. And many other fond memories. I remember going down one of these really large sewers in Shantinagar, which went under the road. And it was dry, full of shit, and stinky. And somebody told us, one of these kids told us that, if you go down this and you go that side, there are gypsies at the other end. So we were so fascinated. All of us decided the next day we were going to go down this sewer and go see the gypsies. So we went with torches and all of that because it went under the road, so it was pitch dark, and of course it was stinking horribly. And we went, and we came out at the other end, and there were no gypsies. There were, I think there were just some people who were dressed a little differently. Actually, this is a very elitist sort of story. I think I should cut this out. Huh? I think they were just poor people who lived differently, and I don't know why he thought they were gypsies. Uh, but I remember this is the great thing that in Shantinagar there were people from all socioeconomic segments. Yeah, in some parts of Shantinagar there were huts, you could see them. There was a lot more interaction and far less ghettoization and separation of the rich and the poor. I recall that. I also remember playing with some kids in the slum on a regular basis. Actually, it wasn't a slum, they were just some huts. And they were poor people who worked as domestic help in somebody's house. And we used to play with them on a regular basis. There was no class distinction. I remember that.
Like eating outside.
Oh, that's many questions. So, if you're talking about Bangalore, it has to be Koshys, and that's not to do with my childhood, but more when I was in college and thereafter. So, to me, Koshys really represents the soul of Bangalore. And he's a fantastic host. He makes special things for you when you go there. Those smileys are fantastic, and he was occasionally does some stuff with mushrooms and all of that. So it's really great. And I remember over the years spending lots of good evenings there with PK Srinivasan, the journalist, who's no more, passed on many years ago, and a whole bunch of other lefty progressive sorts. So it was great to visit Bangalore and spend time at Koshys with PK and his gang. And they were all very well read. And, yeah. So that to me is my favorite eatery, so to speak. But of course, I go to many other places in Bangalore, Sajjan Rao Circle and all that. Have been going. No, the smell for me. Since I've spent so many years away from Bangalore, and I think about the Bangalore that used to be, I think of jasmine flowers a lot. Because growing up, a lot of women wore jasmine flowers and kankamra in their hair, and you don't see that anymore. You hardly ever see kankamra in this part of town, at least, and you don't. So lots of jasmine. That's the smell, and of course the smell of sambar and pakoras and those kinds of things. Food smells. Of course, I've used the metro, but not that much because I live in the middle of the city and there's no connectivity for the metro within the center of the city. But I have used it to go to film festivals at Orion and go to some places. And I love using the metro, but how has it impacted me? It's really a visual assault. If you think about what's happened to MG Road, which was the pride of Bangalore, and Jayanagar, that Nanda Talkies Road, it's such a visual assault what's happened to Bangalore all over. So while I recognize that it's great in terms of convenience and efficiency and connectivity, I really weep for the city that was. It has already imploded so much. I wonder how much worse it's going to get. And sometimes it takes me half an hour to just go about 2 kilometers in this area. Half an hour for 2 kilometers. It's ridiculous. And the future of the city, what do I see for it? Unless the government most of all, unless the government really steps up and mobilizes some of the really important stakeholders in the city, I don't re-envision a better, healthier, safer and more equal space in the city for everyone. I just don't see any hope. It's imploded so much. I oftentimes say the city has really been raped. And I just can't forget successive governments for that. And it's a failure on all of our parts. So many important pieces of heritage have gone forever. And yeah,